I hope you're ready for some live solar quotes today. We got some great things to go over. So, hey, I'm Dale with Renewable Innovations. Thanks for tuning in to our fourth live stream on solar quotes. Sometimes I live stream Destiny when I'm playing. I haven't done that much, but I like to game once in a while, and I'm like, hey, let's live stream it. Why not? Because I have some pretty good matches. But today we're talking about solar and storage quotes in the Riverside area. This specifically is the city of Riverside. We're not talking about Riverside County in general. The last couple videos we've done is Palm Springs, Palm Desert, Temecula, Murrieta. We kind of hit some large city areas that are great. If you have an Airbnb and you're in the Palm Springs area, happy to get you a quote. Very valuable for many of you that have an Airbnb. You probably already know that. Probably already have solar. If you don't got storage on it, that might be the next big thing for you to do. Maybe even put in a level 2 EV charger, so that way you can, charge more for your rental. I don't know. But if you have a vacation rental out in Temecula or Murrieta or somewhere else, happy to help you with those. But we're specifically going to be looking at houses in Riverside. And you can always request a quote from me by just visiting reinnovations.org. You can't really see our logo back there, but I get quotes from QCell right here. So you basically get an installation directly from the manufacturer. I have some other partners that I work with as well. So energy service partners, and then I have some electricians I work with. There's Surgeon Electric. There's also Slazik Electric. Up in Simi Valley. I'm working with him on some pretty big projects. He's got a big project that I've been consulting on, one for his own house and then one for his client. That I'm really excited. We're going to be showcasing that because I'll be going out to that property. So be sure to subscribe to the channel for awesome content on technology related to solar, batteries, EVs, smart, whatever it is in between, and I might throw in some general life stuff once in a while. I got a chance to see some pigs recently get their nails trimmed. That was an experience. If you've never seen piggies get their nails trimmed, that's kind of weird. But I have some footage. I might throw it up just on a random day. My posting schedule is going to be changing for the month of November and December. We've got a lot going on. Obviously, we have the holidays, but we're going to have regular videos on Monday and Friday with shorts on both those days, so 3 shorts for each video. And then the live stream is going to move from Tuesday to Wednesday. Probably going to keep the same time, 6 p.m. I like this 6 p.m. marker. I think you do too. You're getting home, you're unwinding, you can watch this later, of course. But so if you want to stay in tuned, see where the prices are going as the tax credit expires. I believe a lot of the industry is going to be shifting to manufacturer-based installations like Tesla and QCell. I recently heard that another manufacturer is going to be entering this space, and I'm not talking about who it is, but you'll learn eventually, as I hope to work with them and help them, get their feet situated and take off the ground much better than some of the others. So. And we're also probably going to see some small business projects. So I'm working with trying to onboard with some other companies that specialize in commercial level 3 EV chargers and some other things. So we'll see what happens from there if we can get on with them. Otherwise, we got other electricians that we work that do 3-phase. We'll have to just bring in some other people, and we'll figure it out at the end of the day. But really excited to be talking to you today about Riverside. So let's jump over to that. So here we are at realtor.com, not affiliated with any of these realtors or anything. And sometimes I, just kind of gripe them a little bit. Now, Riverside's kind of a big area, and we're going to see a range of houses. I've narrowed it down by removing, contingent properties, foreclosures, land, mobile. We're not giving quotes on any of those things. What I do want to show you in this video that I haven't done in the other ones is show you a solar only system, right, with a battery option as well. So you're going to see a solar only quote, see what the utility bill difference is, how it calculates under NEM3 if you didn't get a battery, and then let's add that battery and see what it changes in terms of that utility bill. I'm going to try and do like small, medium, large. We've done some extra large ones in the previous videos, so be sure to check that out. And I'm hoping with the schedule that I'm working on for next month, maybe we try and throw in some commercial projects, maybe some small businesses. I'll see if we can make that happen. But just make sure to visit us online to request your quote. You can get a free quote, or if you already have some quotes or you need a consultation, you can always just go to the service tab up at the very top, click on service, and there's paid consultations that fit your needs. If you're an electrician and you want to get into solar and storage because you have a client that's been bugging you that they want to work with you, you should do it. And I know it seems daunting. Just I can consult with you and I'll help you and we can figure it out, and then you can do the job. I can even come out to the project. It depends on the scope, right? And what you want to do. But I'm here for all of you, no matter what it is. At the end of the day, if you're a manufacturer that needs assistance with your projects that you have, if you're a current solar provider that's struggling with this end of the year push, you need more people and you just can't hire good staff, don't worry about hiring good staff. Just hire a good consultant that you can outsource to, because that's going to save you more money than bringing someone on board, trying to go through the training process, all this BS. That's where the market's ultimately going to go, is for skilled consultants that have a decade or more of experience, like myself, in the entire project. I have experience from start to finish, and from literally site visits for sales, marketing, all the way through procurement, installation, been out in the field, done plenty of projects, and obviously finishing it off, finishing the utility, getting the jurisdiction to sign off on it, whatever it takes, as well as handling rebates with local or state jurisdictions, like self-generation incentive rebate. So I have plenty of experience in those fields. I don't do a lot of that when you buy a system through me with Axia by QCell, but if you need assistance at any process in your project, I'm happy to provide my services as a consultant. Just reach out, reinnovations.org, and I'm here for you. So enough of that. Let's get back into proposals. Now, I use Open Solar for mine. We want to narrow this down. I know we're looking in the Riverside area, so let's do a minimum of 3 bedrooms. All right. Oh, that was 3 bathrooms. No, yeah, that's bedroom. Oh, that's bathrooms. No minimum, bedrooms 3. There we go. Minimum 3 bedrooms. I think this is a good one to start off right here. This is on a cool little lot. I think in the last video I did a ground mount. There's clearly no solar on it. Yeah, nothing. This is a great property. And let's grab this. I would love to see realtors do more photos around the property. I'm going to be honest, because when I do virtual tours, because I also do virtual tours on the side once in a while. I do a lot of stuff, but I like to do in virtual tours. I love to get details on the electrical panel. It's just my nerdiness, but I like to go around the entire exterior of the property with my virtual tours, not just cover the inside, but let the person walk around the entire property and get a feel for it. Because there's other people that are kind of nerdy like me that want to see, like, am I going to need an electrical panel upgrade because they have an EV, right? And you call a realtor and you ask that question, those guys are like, what's an electrical panel? And it's like the shit attached to your house, charging your phone. Sometimes they ain't got no brain. But they're great people. I was a realtor at one point, and they work hard. They definitely work hard. What are we doing here? Why do I have a glitch? Oh, I gotta log back in. Are we logged in? Okay. Sheesh, though, weesh. What an annoying little thing. Okay, now that we're logged in, create project. Let's get this built. So this is a 2,000 square foot property, and like I mentioned, I like to use for my baseline 3 watts per square foot. So on 2047, we're going to be looking at 6,141 kilowatt hours. Now our baseline is for this region, California, Open Solar has all this populated per state, is 6,684 per year. So we're just going to leave it at that. I don't see any reason to change this. I'm going to go ahead and throw up the website domain up at the top. So we're just going to leave it like that. This looks like a nice tile roof. Let's make sure that it's not clay. No, that's not clay. Looks like it, but it's W tile. It's concrete W tile. This is a big tree they cut out. Sheesh. Okay. So this is our 3D modeling that we get from Open Solar. It does full shading analysis built in there. Factors in a lot. Now we have great orientation west and east. Now this is a good property to kind of go over because we do have the possibility of doing a ground mount. Yeah, you could do a ground mount. Everybody always asks, does a ground mount cost more? It does. And you got to remember, with a normal solar system, you already have a structure to attach it to. When you're doing a ground mount, you have to build that structure. And it's all built out of steel, right? You have concrete footings you have to put in. You have steel posts. You have cross members that are going in. Sometimes you have cantilevers that you're putting in. Then you have your railing to go on, which you normally have railing anyways, but you're going to use a higher end railing. You're going to be using, like, for example, Iron Ridge's XR1000 versus their 100 or their 10, their XR10. Typically you use their XR10 on residential. And the XR1000, it's a thick rail and it's meant for bigger spans. It's meant for ground mounts. It's meant for commercial and industrial use. So it just has to do with the engineering, right? So you end up using higher cost equipment and materials. Then there's more labor involved, permitting costs are more, engineering costs are more, because now you have to do structural engineering, though you sometimes have to do that on residential. And then you got to wonder, like, okay, if I put this array south, is that the best orientation? And south typically is, if you can go a little southwest, right, like 200 degrees, 210 degrees, that's probably the sweet spot, because then you get some of that sunset. And I say that because under, net metering 3.0 specifically, you're on time of use. And under time of use, at least here in California, right, you want to orientate that array based upon your time of use. So if you're in a region where time of use is early in the morning, you might actually want to point it maybe 160 degrees, 150 degrees. So you get some of that early morning solar production, right? Get those modules turning on a little sooner. Otherwise, for us in California, in most regions, time of use starts at around 4 p.m. So you want to try and get that solar production to last longer as the sun's setting. Now, in terms of which orientations produce more power, it's south, then west, then east, and then north. North is always your last option. It's your last resort. If you're on a tract home and you can't get you got maxed out all your roofs, southwest, east, you got panels everywhere, and you still need more solar production, north is, you can still put it on there, you're still going to generate power, but you usually see about 30 to 40% loss of energy compared to all those other roofs. So it can be noticeably less. The module efficiency is improving, but it doesn't change that just the irradiance is lower on the north facing. And that's why you typically find homes with moss that's built up on that north facing roof, because it's cooler. So, and if you have a home, you typically notice that the north facing side is also typically cooler. So this is a clean array. We're probably only going to need 12 panels. Let's see if this calculates. So that's about 100-ish%. They got to fix these numbers because you can't read it anymore. It's 100-ish%. So we're going to want a little more because we want to be around 130%. Under the net metering 3.0, you typically want to be around 130 up to 150%. You typically don't want to go too much larger than that. This is saying 120 something. So that's a little better. So we got that. We're going to be on flat concrete. Well, it's concrete tile concrete. And then we're going to do a solar only system, right? So we're using Q cells, Qtron modules, and then we're going to pair that up with we're going to do Q cells, microinverters. Could do N phase. We could do N phase as well. So if you want N phase, we can do it. No difference there. Yeah, there we go. 131% offset with the N phase microinverters. We got 14 panels. This is a good We want a west orientation. We're installed over the garage, have plenty of fire setback, as you can see, 3 feet over here, 18 inches from the ridge. And we're not going to do a battery. That's it. That's it. That's our solar only system. So we want to take this same system and we're going to duplicate it, and now we're going to compare it to a storage solution. Now I want to keep the cost down, so my first step is to do that by going with a good solution. So we're going to do a modest battery. Q-Cell's hybrid battery is a stackable solution, and it starts off at as low as 10 kilowatt hours. So I'm going to switch out to Q-Cell's Q-Volt hybrid inverter, and then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to add the battery. We're going to duplicate this. So we're going to do 10, 15, and 20 kilowatt hours. Now I recommend you to just max out the stack. I did a video recently talking about the stacked batteries and how, you know, some manufacturers kind of make it a little misleading in terms of the simplicity associated with them, because they're not, it's not that easy to just go back and add a battery. Technically, yeah, you would think like, oh, it's only 3 kilowatt hours, I'm just going to add a module, done. No, you technically should be getting new permits. That means another inspection. That means new NEM paperwork, right? You're having to revise your old paperwork. The installation is typically 1 day for it. Depends on the complexity. But let's grab Q-Cell's hub. All right. So now we have that. We're doing DC coupled. So this is 14 panels plus 10 kilowatt hour battery, right? So this is our entry battery. And I mean, if you just needed something modest, this is great for those of you that are under NEM1, NEM2, and your inverter went bad, right? If you have an older string inverter that has crapped out, this would be a good option for you, because it's going to be pretty inexpensive. You wouldn't need the panel add-ons. You would still have a new permit and new NEM paperwork, but it's not going to kick you out of the old program, at least as long as the installer's doing the paperwork right. You know, and I can help with that. I consult on that kind of stuff, so I can provide assistance. So we got the 15 kilowatt hour battery, and then we're going to max it out with the 20. And you can do multiple Q-Cell stacks, so you can have several of these units to keep scaling up your power output, which is nice. Similar to Tesla, similar to Franklin, most of these battery systems allow you to scale up and get bigger systems deployed. So there we go. And I would bet that this house needed a panel upgrade. We're not including that in here. We're going to hit recalculate. This is great orientation, great sun access. So there we go. We're going to hit save. And while I did go with the hybrid inverter, so this is DC coupled, it's important to note that we could go with Q-Cell's microinverters and make their Q-Home battery AC coupled. It wouldn't cost you anything, and then you would have module level monitoring. So big advantage for you in that type of configuration if you wanted it. It's very competitive with, I would say, Enphase's IQ10C, right? So I probably need to do a video on that. I've been a little busy, so I'm a little behind on some videos. I got to really catch up on some stuff. So here we go. We got a 14 panel solar only project, right? And we might be able to work the numbers a little bit. We're not showing the tax credit in any of this stuff, so you know, just get that out of your mind, because that's history at this point. If you haven't made the commitment to solar and you got an installer promising you the installation, I'm not saying that I couldn't do it. I do have some electricians that might be able to free up some time, but a lot of people are pretty slammed for the next 2 months. So we got November, December. Your system has to be installed. It's so important that it's installed. You should have PTO. You should pass inspection, but it's not super critical to have those. What is most critical is that the system is installed and it's operational, that shit can turn on and function. So with a solar only system, we have a grid independence score of 40%. Now keep in mind, this is 131% of the home's consumption that we're estimating at around 6,700 kilowatt hours. So you can see how the energy curtails throughout the season, right? This is the estimated production. It's daily. but it applies to the months. So self-consumption, 31%. So 31% of the solar energy is being consumed by the home. The rest is exported to the grid. Now your total out the door cost is $17,000, right? I would round this down to give you a killer deal. So $17,000, 14 high power Q-cell modules, 14 of their high power microinverters, get module level monitoring, and a great 25-year warranty across the board from them. So you can't go wrong with that, right? Now this is cash, of course. So the old bill is estimated at $217. Well, after going solar and being under NEM3, you're still saving money, right? So your new bill is estimated at $97. We didn't zero it out, but we did kind of cut it in half, right? Your lifetime savings isn't amazing, right? We're only looking at about $38,000, but look at it. Your initial investment was only 17. So you put out 17, you cut your utility bill in half. Yes, you still have a utility bill because you have no solar production in the evenings. You have no solar production through peak times where they're charging 50, 60, 75 cents a kilowatt hour. In some jurisdictions, it's getting up there. I wouldn't be surprised if we see $1 per kilowatt hour in the next 3 years. No joke. The demand for energy is substantial, and we just aren't deploying enough of it as we need to. We really aren't. We are way behind globally on energy production. So you can contribute and not have to worry about these rising costs in the future by at least getting a solar system. It's inexpensive, and you can add that battery later. Yes, you're going to have permits again. Yes, you're going to have to revise your NEM application, but it would help make up the difference if you don't have the capital to do the whole system. We're going to show that here in a second to see the difference. You can at least still just go solar. It's not like the end of the world. Is it going to save you as much? You're going to have months. Remember, this is an average $97. You're going to have months where you're going to pay more. You're going to pay more. It's going to be more than $97. That's as an average. So months might be $150. Just like this $217 is an average. So you had months that probably were $350, right? So those $350 months, maybe they're $175. You get where I'm going with that? So, and there's smart things you can do that I would be happy to talk to you about when you got your proposal that'll help you with your solar only design to curtail the grid usage during peak time. There are smart home improvements that you can make, and maybe we should go over them on another video, but not for this one. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share. Get the message out there. But this is how the utility rates work under net metering 3.0. It's referred to the net billing tariff, and you can see, here's your payback. It's not amazing, right? So this NEM3 program isn't great for solar only, but the problem is we have too much solar coming to the grid. The utility companies don't want this solar energy, right? They can buy energy for dirt cheap. They got plenty of excess solar, and they got plenty of other energy that they can use during the day. What they don't have is energy in the evenings, right? That's why batteries are so important. That's why NEM3 is so important. And you can still just go solar and save costs. I'm doing a 4% annual rate increase on the utility rate. Very modest, very low. I literally have just read an approval of 8.2% price increase for Southern California Edison. So, the numbers are what the numbers are going to be based upon the escalated rate. You factor in inflation. Inflation's 2% right now, right? It's still at 2%. Or maybe, was it 3? Maybe we're at 3. I forget. Anyways, let's look at a battery, right? So taking this same system, solar only, and all we're doing is adding 10 kilowatt hours. This is a pretty small battery, but I have previously done in past videos where I ran the numbers, I did the modeling, pre-AI, mind you, and I concluded that 10 kilowatt hours is that sweet spot. You need a minimum of 10 kilowatt hours to make this financial sense. The more you have, the better off you are long term, but short term, 10 kilowatt hours is your minimum. And Tesla's pretty good with their 13.5 kilowatt hours of storage. So they're not just giving you more storage for the short term, but they're giving you a little bit buffer as batteries degrade over time. So you should get 20 years easily out of a Powerwall, likely to see 25. Just do some research, go in the Reddit forums. You'll find people talking about how much storage they're still retaining on their batteries. And I know we're looking at Q-Cell right here, but they're using a slightly different chemistry that's actually supposed to last longer, and they offer a longer warranty. So their Q Home battery comes with a 12-year standard warranty, can be extended up to 15 years. So kind of keep that in mind. There's other manufacturers like Enphase and Franklin that offer 15-year warranties as well. The battery technology is solid. It's going to last, if their warranty is 15, it's going to last at least 25, at least. It's got to. Now Tesla's, if theirs is 10, it's going to at least last 20. I could see it last in 25, but my thing is the inverter might crap out in the meantime. 20 years is a long time for an inverter. But then again, you have air conditioning units that have never been serviced that just keep running. You talk to an HVAC guy and they're like, dude, this thing's it's from 1987 and the shit's still running. It's 35 years old, so you never know. You could get a product that just freaking lasts forever. We're getting there. The technology is pretty good. So look at that grid independence score. It shoots way up. We went from 40% of grid independence, meaning how much of the energy that you generate and store on site, because if you don't have a battery, you can't store your own energy, are you using? So we're using 84% of our own solar and battery power. That's a really good number. We want to be above 75%. That's your goal. Minimum 75%. And you see, we got 10 kilowatt hours, 7.6 kilowatt inverter. We got the gateway for backup. If we didn't do backup and you just wanted self-consumption, we could knock $1,000 off of the price that you see here, just so you know. Energy from solar, 120%. It comes down a little bit because this is DC coupled, but you make up for it on the round trip efficiency. So while the solar production is higher with microinverters on an AC coupled system, keep in mind that your round trip efficiency is lower. So that delta between the energy consumption, the energy produced, it kind of washes itself out. So keep that in mind. You can see 67% is self-consumed, while 33% is sent to the grid. Quite the opposite, right? We just flip-flopped here. So as you can see, before in the solar only, self-consumption of solar, 31%, 69% is exported to the grid. Add just a measly 10 kilowatt hour battery, boom, self-consumption 67%, grid export 33. So that means your home's using the solar energy, you have enough to charge the batteries, and you're still sending a little bit back to the grid for some credits. And you'll see that number go down as we increase the battery size. So we're at $27,000, right? Let's just call it what it is, $27,000. So you get 10 kilowatt hours of storage. Yeah, I know we don't have microinverters. We could add them in there, no extra cost. And that was it's $10,000 more for 10 kilowatt hours. That's about $1,000 a kilowatt hour. And that's with backup. Keep that in mind. That is with backup. This is small backup. This isn't whole home backup or anything. But this is still under $30,000, which is the target. Now let's get into these electricity bill details. Look at that. Look how much the utility bill went down, right? So we went from $217 on average to $25 with 10 kilowatt hours. The lifetime savings went from $33,000 to $86,000. That's how much more energy costs between time of use periods. That's why that battery is so critical. You can't, during the summer, the sun is up longer. I get it. So you're generating more solar production, but the rest of the year it's not. So maybe 3 to 4 months out of the year, out of 12, you're generating enough solar production to get you maybe through most of time of use. Not the whole thing, but remember your solar production is decreasing as the sun is setting. So unless your usage during that time is going down with the solar production to match it, which it's usually not. Usually at 4 p.m. you're getting home, kids are home, you're turning on TV, turning the air conditioning on, got fans going, you're gonna turn lights on in the house, you're gonna start microwaving stuff, you're opening and closing the fridge. Things are moving, you're using more power. That's costing you a pretty penny during those times. Having the battery allows your solar and the battery to offset your consumption during that period, so you're not paying for that high electricity cost. What's really cool with Axia by QCell is being a larger organization, which none of my past partners that I've ever worked with, any organization ever, I've never touched on programs like the renewable energy certificates or VPPs. Now, I've talked about the importance of VPPs, but I've never talked about renewable energy certificates. And I did a pretty good video recently on that. I don't know if it's out yet. If it is, awesome. If it's not, you'll see it soon. If you subscribe, make sure to subscribe. But Axia by QCell handles these REC certificates, there's RECs, and basically you're getting money, free money for having a solar system. It's about $30 a kilowatt, I want to say. So for a system of this size, what are we, 6 kilowatts? You're looking at like, that can't be right. 6 times 30, $180. Yeah. For some reason I added a zero. I was like $1,800. No, it's $180. So every year for owning your solar system, even if you just did a solar only, you can be a part of this, you get 180 bucks. Yeah, there's no tax credit, but hey, here's some free rebates. Axia by QCell handles that paperwork. They handle the reporting. It's very extensive paperwork to do. I've never done it. I don't know any organization that promotes it. Typically, you only see it done when it's a lease. If it's a lease, then yeah, the leasing company wants free money. They're going to do paperwork. They'll do it. They don't give a shit. If you buy a system in cash, like this one being proposed, very rarely do you get an installer, especially a local one. You're definitely not going to find a local guy to do this stuff. If you do, I want to know who they are because I want to work with them. But leave a comment. But you know, having a big organization that's willing to do the paperwork, even though it's not a lease, that is unheard of. So I find that very impressive from them. So, and you also get a rebate for the battery. So if you get a QCell battery, you get a Tesla battery, Franken battery, whatever you get, you can do that same configuration. You can participate with a virtual power plant network, be part of the VPP. You can opt in and out of this stuff. And you get money back every year for being part of those programs. QCell has also a sub-program within their VPP where they send you some gift cards as well, depending on your storage size. So that's pretty cool. But let's see if this bill goes down anymore with more storage, right? Remember, I've been talking about NEM3 for, I don't know, since before it launched, you know, realistically. Okay, 15. Wow, that wasn't a big, did you see anything change? I didn't see anything change. And it's because it doesn't. There's just a certain sweet spot. 10 kilowatt hours tends to be that minimum sweet spot. 13 and a half, 15, you're giving yourself a buffer. It's not going to save you more money. You have interconnection fees you just can't avoid. So at this configuration, $23. Your lifetime savings went up because you have more storage, right? So you're prepared more for the future. So if your energy usage changes a little bit, you have a buffer there. So you can see we go from 86,500, that's this number right here, to 91,900, 92 basically. So that's about a $6,000 gain by adding, in terms of savings, by adding an extra 5 kilowatt hours. Now how much more does it cost? $1,000. So from 10 kilowatt hours to 15, it's only costing you $1,000. Now keep in mind, this is still for backup. So I still got QCell's gateway in here. We got their hub that's integrated. So you're still gonna have a backup panel. We're gonna be backing up small circuits, your 15, 20 amps, right? So the lights, the refrigerator, you know, those types of loads are gonna stay on there. You know, all the outlets, that's very basic. Any company that's not backing up all the 15 and 20 amps on most services, I think they're kind of doing a little disservice there for most installs. I don't see any reason why these systems can't at least do measly 15 watt outlets or 15 watt light bulbs and, you know, 15 amp outlets. I mean, you can design it right and you do it right the first time and you just nix the large loads. It's simple. It's super simple, super streamlined. Cookie cutter stuff. Now, what's go up a battery? Remember, QCell's battery stacks to 20 kilowatt hours, so we can add another 5 kilowatt hour module to this, get a little bit more storage, and I'm going to hide the price again. Let's see if we get the bill down from $23 right? We're see if we're going to get that any lower. Nope. See, there's just at a certain point where you're just preparing for the future with your system. So this system's going to be more. We saw the savings increase. So for $1,000 more in cost, you're saving an extra $6,000 over 25 years. Now this only went up like $1,000. It really only went up like $1,000 to add that extra battery, because we're not factoring in that the software doesn't account for, it really should. Anybody from Open Solar, you're watching this, we should have in here an escalator for energy consumption. There should be an ability to put 1.5% annual increase on energy consumption over 25 years. I don't see any reason why not to. I don't think it would be drastic, but it would be nice to see that type of feature, in my opinion. But the price jumped up quite a bit. That last 5 kilowatt hour module definitely adds to the price. So we went from 27,000 to 28,000, that's 15 kilowatt hours, to 32. So that is quite the jump in terms of cost for that last battery module. Now some of it is associated with it specifically being from larger loads. So you have more backup capabilities with the full stack. That's really what it comes down to. There's going to be some more electrical work involved. It's kind of is what it is at the end of the day. Hang on, I kind of got the hiccups. But at least you now have someone willing to go over this with you without the pressure. I just showed you a solar only quote, a solar plus 10 kilowatt hour battery, a solar with 15 kilowatt hour battery, a solar with 20 kilowatt hour battery. And what did we learn? The 15 kilowatt hour battery is the best one here, right? If you really want to plan for long term, you probably want to go with that 20 kilowatt hours. But if you're planning for like 10 years, I would say the 15 kilowatt hour battery is the way to go with the configuration. Having that extra 5 kilowatt hours doesn't save you that much more money, because we can't account for the energy you might use in the future or might not, right? We don't know how efficient homes will become as time progresses. There are other improvements you can do to your home before you make the investment in solar, or after you make the investment in solar, before you add more modules, right? I do consult on energy efficient improvements. I'm happy to go over those things. I've done plenty of videos on them in the past. I've talked about smart LED lighting. I've talked about smart switches. I've talked about smart circuit breakers. I've talked about a lot of different insulation. We've talked about windows. There's a lot of things you can do to your home after going solar. Hi Prince, how's it going? I agree, it would be able to factor in a percentage usage increase per year. Yeah, I think so. I think that would be a good little adder. I don't know any proposal software that factors in a user's consumption increasing gradually. I think that would be pretty valuable, because at least it could maybe even account for an EV. You could set it where like, yeah, okay, I did 2% annual rate increase on my consumption, and I plan on buying an EV in year 7. Like, cool, it's kind of factored into that, right? You wouldn't need to just add it in there. You could gradually increase it and scale the system, and then you would have a better gauge like, okay, how's my consumption over the next 10, 20 years? Because that's where solar has to be right now in terms of its design. You need someone like myself that's thinking a little bit longer term for you on the design, not just like, hey, here's the cheapest price I can get you, just sign the dotted line. So thanks for agreeing, Prince, and thanks for being a viewer and a commenter. And so let's find another project. This was a pretty lengthy one. We have room for one more property. So let's go find a little bit bigger one in the Riverside area. Again, we're looking for homes in Riverside. This is not specific to Riverside County. We don't want pending and contingent. And so minimum square footage. So this one was about 2,000. Let's see. Is there any that are above 3,500 square feet? Probably. Okay, 81. Ooh, these are kind of nice. That one's already got solar. well, why don't we look at a project? I don't know. Have I done one with a battery only add-on? I don't think so. So how about we look at a battery only add-on for you? This house already had solar. So if you were looking to buy a house, this one's in Riverside, great property, 5 bedrooms, 3 bath, 4,107 square feet. That does not look like a big solar system, I'll be honest, for it. So let's see how much it's solar here, and you can see there's quite a bit of shading occurring on these modules from these trees. So this is something you would want to definitely have addressed by the previous owners. I don't want to take your survey, realtor. Thanks. So it's definitely something you would want to address with those previous owners. It does look like some of the modules are installed behind this chimney as well. So, I would definitely want these trees trimmed back. Nothing you can do on that chimney. Hopefully it's microinverters or using solar edge optimizers. If it's a string inverter, can we tell right here in this photo? Can't really tell what's right here. It looks like a nice install though. I would have to say it's probably microinverters. So many of them have been deployed. It's kind of crazy. So all right, let's jump out of this and let's build a. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 designs here. We're going to do a battery only add-on. We don't know what the energy usage is of this home. We don't know what the existing solar system is, so there's no details. I do system inspections, so that's not something you typically get from a home inspector. They don't typically inspect the solar equipment. They kind of just glance it over, maybe take some photos. I actually will do some testing on the equipment. I will get up on the roof if that's what you need. We get the labeling. If the owner doesn't know all the details, you want to know it. You don't want to just buy some system, trust me. And if it's a lease, really try to get them to just buy it outright. Like just get rid of the lease. I would strongly encourage that. It's not the end of the world if you take it over, but I just hear some pretty disastrous things. If you're at a 10-year mark where they're selling it and it's a perfect time to get out of that lease, just do it. It's going to give you so much more flexibility with adding on solar, adding storage in the future, whatever you want to do, and you don't have to worry about paying these guys. And a lot of the times these older leases didn't offset 100% of the bill. And your usage might be different. So I'm not putting anything in here. We do have an existing system. We had some glitches. I did do this last time, and we had some glitches with the software. These look like 250s. We're gonna leave it at 300. Man, that's a wonky roof. Yeah, okay, so it's, see the problem is, you see how in open solar it lets me put the panel wattage in here? So I can change the wattage for the existing system. What it's doing, it's not actually populating the existing wattage of the modules. It's actually using my default module's wattage. They probably, maybe no one's mentioned this to them, so I'll probably hit them up. I was always finding bugs, and I always message them about it. So I'm usually pretty good at finding stupid bugs and being like, this don't work, something's wrong. They're like, oh, thanks, Dale. How's it going? Yeah, it's going. Just building solar systems. I'm really excited for this big ground mount. I can't wait to. And it's up in the Simi Valley area. It's in like Saumus. So if these were 400, well, I'm putting 20 panels in there. It's looking like an 8.6 kilowatt, which probably isn't too far off from what it really is. It might be a little smaller. It really comes down to what that wattage is. And then I'm going to add like a 5% shading buffer on there. Might be a little more, but it's going to do it on the entire array. Okay, so cool. Now I have the existing system in here. Don't know the accuracy of this, right? Because I don't know the actual wattage of these panels. Don't know the age of them, all that good stuff. But I'm doing it for a reference point, right? We just kind of want to do something as a reference. I'm going to drop one panel off, actually, because I doubt it's 140% of their usage. Yeah, that's probably more realistic. Okay, now I'm going to do a new system, and you see all those disappear. And we're going to just add a battery. Now, the reason I wanted to put that existing system in there, because it's actually going to show me some cool numbers based on the old system details and then the new system details. So it'll show how the battery's helping with it. And I can go in there, I can even set it to NEM2. So we're going to manually add a battery. I'm going to go with the Powerwall 3 on this particular retrofit. So one Powerwall 3 AC coupled. That should be good. And then we're going to need a gateway, Tesla backup gateway. And then I do need, with this one, there will be a special sub panel that I need. And don't mind the pricing that you see in there. That is not the real price. So sub panel backup, right? Smile. With one Powerwall. Okay, it would be 200. Yeah, so I would probably encourage you, because if you planned on adding another power on the wall in the future, we could go in either direction, but we'll just do partial backup on this. So this is 1x Powerwall. So we're just adding a battery here, and that's it. Nothing fancy. Remember, this is an estimate your particular quote. If you reached out, just visit us, reinnovations.org, request a hassle-free one under the contact tab, or you can do a paid consultation. Either way, I'm here to help you out. So we're going to save that. Now let's add also an option if we added modules with this. So if I did that, and then we added some panels, say we just add like 5 panels. Right? No, that's not enough. I have a minimum we have to hit. We have to do a minimum on that. So do that, and then let's move on here. I'm not a big fan. It's 9 panels. I think my minimum is 3 kilowatts, 3.8, and the 9 panels might be the minimum. So let's say we added 9 panels, put some on the west roof. I don't, maybe the original owners didn't want any on the west roof. I would encourage that on the west roof. We're actually going to move these guys over here. Oh, that's pretty good. I actually like this one right here. So 9 Q cell modules. Let's add in that Tesla Powerwall inverter. I didn't have it in here, but there you go. And then the battery, we got a Powerwall. We're just doing one Powerwall. Same backup. We're going to add the existing system into this configuration, right? So this is 9 panels plus 1 Powerwall. Very simple. And if you wanted to go bigger, we could definitely do that. So we'll zoom way out so it all fits. Let's recalculate so that way all the numbers run. Remember, we're adding on to an existing system. So this is kind of a unique design. We're going to show a battery-only configuration, and then we're also going to show, and the only thing I want to change is what we think the annual usage is. So for a home of 4,107 square feet, we do 3 watts per square foot. We would estimate 12,231 kilowatt hours. So there we go, total consumption. So I'm just putting total consumption because then it'll figure out the difference between the existing system and then what we generate. So it's going to recalculate all this. So now we can see that the existing system is a little under. I'm going to bump it up. I'm going to actually add 1 panel to it. 8.6 sounds about right. This system has got blue modules. Usually you can tell the age of a panel by the frame and by the cells. So if they're blue panels, you don't see a lot of blue modules anymore, at least for the last like 5 years. A lot of them have been all black. If you see silver frame modules, those are definitely 10 years old. Those guys are old, no joke. All right, so this should all be calculated. So you're not gonna see the existing system in the proposal. That's what's cool with Open Solar. So I was able to estimate that, and look, it's not over here, it's only in the back end and in the calculations. So as you can see right here at the grid independence score, we have some text under it that we didn't have before. And it says grid independence up from 38%. So that's up from the solar only, right? Because now this is a quote with just a battery being added. So and you can see the battery is $14,150. I'm gonna have to double check that number. I might have missed a component. I don't think I did, but maybe. So yeah, that's not too bad. Estimated annual production, that's from your current solar system. That's what we're estimating the solar is currently generating, which might be less than what the homeowner's consuming. It might be more, I don't know. I'm going off of 3 watts per square foot for the home. And then I kind of estimated the solar system at about 8.6 kilowatts. It looks around that size for the color of the modules. But if you scheduled a service, you know, I have that service available on my website where I come out there and I gather that information. I make sure the equipment's working, and I can check the equipment, get all the manufacturer details. We're all good there. So we got this partial backup. And then look, the graph's a little bit different. You see now it says new system generation, which there is no new system being installed, right? Self-consumption up from 50%. See, it gives you context into what the battery's doing in conjunction with the existing system. This is really valuable information, right? And you have your quote, $14,150 for that Powerwall. It's a very inexpensive unit compared to some of the other solutions. I might be missing an item here. So if it's more when you get a quote, it's because I missed something in the quote and I'm kind of just going through it. No tax credit, of course. This is what we're estimating the bill to be, but this is under NEM3, right? So keep that in mind. You would not end up under NEM3 with adding a battery. You would stay under your current utility NEM program, whether it's 1.0 or 2.0. Adding a battery does not affect your net metering status. And in actuality, adding more solar could potentially not affect you as well, as you could do a revision to your NEM current agreement, and it could then be zero export. So the new system is just not exporting to the grid. It's there to provide more power for the home and solar, or recharge the battery. And then the existing system is primarily there to export to the grid. It's a little funky in configuration, but it works and can be done. So we know, hey, if I add a battery, I'm cool, I'm clean, 14,150. Oh, I am missing a cost there. I know exactly what I'm missing. Since this is a battery only, there are the plan, design, engineering, the permits, all that stuff needs to be added. So that's a battery adder. I forgot about that. I'm sorry. I'm like, something is missing here. That seems too low. Because yeah, all those costs, your plans are typically around $500. The permit's typically around $500. So, you're $1,000 right there. You get your electrical engineering stamp. That's another $250. You have the administrative time of having to go to the jurisdiction. You have your staff. Like, it adds up pretty quick. So that's going to probably add about $3,000 to the cost, which if we go over here, calculating in. Sometimes it just moves so slow. 17,000, yeah, so about $3,000, because that's the administrative time, that's the additional NEM paperwork, that's the plans, that's the engineering. Those are all costs that are typically built into the solar quote. And if you don't do a solar system, then those costs still need to be accounted for. So the 14,000 is typically like, that's like the raw price, like Powerwall, gateway, sub panel, labor. Like you're not gonna get it if you get cheap Powerwalls. I'd be concerned on the install. So anyways, 17,000 out the door, and you got your Powerwall. Now let's say you wanted to add some more modules, right? Well, we can do that, and we're looking at 9 panels, $7,000 more. So we went from 17,000 for just the Powerwall to 24,000 with 9 panels and the Powerwall still. And the big difference here is because of that extra cost that's built into the package price with the solar, is that the planning, the engineering, the permits, all that administrative work, that's built into the price. Battery add-ons don't have huge margins. They really don't. Most solar contractors that are really pushing for NEM3 to be reversed is because they know they're not going to stay in business long term with a solar plus storage solution without the tax credit. The tax credit has definitely played a big role in that. So they really want to see that program get reversed so that we can just install solar, because they make way better money just slapping panels on the roof. It's cheap labor, cheap work, easy peasy, typically 1-2 day installs. Nothing complicated. You don't have to have a certified electrician on staff. You don't need to have journeymen out in the field. You don't have to worry about people doing the job correctly. You just got guys up on the roof that just plug panels into each other and ground, make the mids and the ends clamp. It's labor intensive. It's not work that everybody likes doing. Let me tell you, being a solar installer up on the roof is brutal. I've done some jobs. It's not fun. I like working down on the ground, doing the batteries, doing the panels. Wire is a pain in the butt, but let me tell you, it's definitely my cup of tea in terms of work. And when I talk to most electricians, they would much rather get the client that wants to add a battery to their site than get the client that wants to add solar and a battery to the site. They'll still take this project, but they would rather just have this one client. And it's like, bam, here's your battery, and here's your EV charger at the same time. Most of the time they're doing one with the other. So look at that. You add more solar, now you're grid independence, and you can see how the chart now shows you your new solar production on top of your estimated current solar generation. Again, I don't know the exact wattage of these panels that I used in this example, so that's always going to vary. But it's important information to keep in mind. And this is a nice healthy system, and it's only $7,000 more. So you're getting 9 panels with the Powerwall for $24,000. That's not bad at all. And depending on what your usage is, this could be an NEM3 zero export system. So that means your current system would not be affected and would still be allowed to export to the grid under NEM1 or NEM2. And this new system would fundamentally act independently, and it was only there for your home. So it's just for your home. You're not sending any power to the grid. Now that may make you ineligible for some programs, right? You might not be eligible for the renewable energy certificates, which isn't a lot on this anyways, right? We're only doing like 4 kilowatts, so it's like 120 bucks. It's not even that. It's going to be like less than $100. And then any virtual power plant networks. You may or may not be able to participate in that if you're on a non-export. I really don't know. That's where some of this gray area falls in. It's uncharted territory at the end of the day. But we've come up on an hour for this video. That's typically what I try to keep it under. I hope you've really enjoyed it and have learned something valuable. I do try and give you realistic numbers in these quotes, so I do apologize about the Powerwall being inaccurate initially. But I did catch it and was like, oh yeah, I'm missing the extra cost here for the project. And I put it on there. I show you like, hey, this is a battery adder. This is cost. This can't be avoided. This is plans. This is engineering. This is permits. This is NEM apps. This is administrative work, right? There's not really profit in that. That's not their profit at all. That's just paperwork, basically costs. And that's what you got to keep in mind with a modular battery system. And that's what I talked about in a recent video. When you do these stackable batteries, they are nice. Even Powerwalls, they're technically a stackable battery. They're DC and AC stackable. That's kind of unique for them. But what do we got, Prince? Oh, thanks for taking the time as always. Yeah, I appreciate it. I really appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you. But yeah, those stackable batteries, just keep in mind, those raw costs of plans, engineering, permits, those are something that you can't avoid in the future. Yeah, you might get that weird guy that'll be willing to do it unpermitted, but you pose an interesting risk with your home insurance. So I'll be talking about some home insurance policies, some changes that we might be seeing in the residential space from insurers that might affect more people than we'd like to see. But we're here to help you at Renewable Innovations. I appreciate your time. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe.